Good evening, everyone, on this summer Monday. I'd like to call the meeting of the Carver School Committee of July 26, 2021 to order at 7:03 p.m. If everyone could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just as a reminder, I want to remind everybody this meeting is being held virtually in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Members of the public can attend in person, as we're here in person, also online, and also through Area 58. And if anybody's interested in participating in public comment, if they could put their information in the chat now, that would be greatly appreciated.
I don't see Tammy. Do you see?
No, Tammy's in. I brought her in as a
panelist?
I brought her in as a panelist.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, there she is. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. So, are we all set?
Yep. You're all set, Tammy. Go ahead. Comments from the APC.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to relax and enjoy summer thus far. There have been many people reaching out and asking about the plan for next fall. Last year, we all did an amazing job navigating through the maze and creating a positive educational experience for our children, while simultaneously keeping our children and community as healthy as possible. It seems that this upcoming school year could be almost as challenging. Luckily, we have experience on our side. We know how to work together to make decisions based on science and that are in the best interest of our students and community. We are prepared to do the hard work necessary moving forward. Our Health and Safety Committee is assembled and ready to meet. Our educators and students did a great job working with us last year. They were responsive to the guidelines provided, and it kept our community safe. We are very fortunate to be part of an amazing team of educators and administrators. So as you make these hard decisions for next fall, remember you have a team that is willing to do what's best for our children and each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy. Well, we don't have anyone, I don't believe, here that would like to make a comment from the general public. Is there anyone that typed in chat?
No one has come forward in the chat yet, but I guess we'll give them one more minute. So just a reminder, if you want to participate in comments from the general public, this is your opportunity to put your name into the chat at this time. I don't see any.
Okay, so seeing no one, we shall move on to the approval of minutes for the May 24th, 2021 open session minutes. Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the open session on May 24th, 2021. Just confirming that there was one minor date correction made under item 4, where we just corrected the date to be April 26th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? I'm sorry? Oh, abstain.
Abstain.
Jason was not there, so 4-0-1. Thank you. And then we move on to communications.
Yeah, so since we last met, we've actually had an exciting donation. We had a family in Carver, Sherry and Mike Bazzignani, who notified us that they were moving out of town. And they've been Carver residents for over 40 years. Their kids went through the school system, and they had a baby grand piano that they decided they would like to donate to the music program at Carver Middle High School. So we accepted that donation. The piano actually got moved over the weekend. So I have some pictures for you to show you the piano in place. And then there's just a letter that was sent to the Bazzignani's as a thank you for their donation. They're actually moving this week. So it wasn't practical to invite them to this evening's meeting, but we're very appreciative of the donation. It was just very generous. It's a beautiful piano. Pictures slowly coming out. And so it's in the auditorium. It got moved this weekend.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's actually a player piano as well.
Oh, really?
So, if we work on that system, it has the ability to, this isn't set up yet, but it has the ability to actually tie into the sound system. So like if you were having an event in the auditorium, you could have the player piano just playing and come through the sound system. So as I said, it's just a beautiful item, very generous donation by the Bazignani family.
Absolutely.
And we're
Thank
so
you.
excited to have it.
Yes, thank you very much for the beautiful,
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it.
yeah.
They're very, very excited. I'm sure the students will be very excited once they
See it.
get
yeah.
back in there and see it, yeah.
Yeah, and the worth of the piano is high. So we're going to take some protective measures. We've actually ordered a cover for it. We've ordered a locking system. It's a beautiful instrument.
Very generous.
Yeah, very, very generous donation by the family. So again, thank you to Sherry and Mike Bazignani. The only thing they asked, they just said we'd love to have a plaque on the piano. So we worked on what it's going to say. So we're in the process of purchasing the plaque. The plaque's going to say donated by Sherry and Mike Bazignani, when words leave off, music begins.
Hey,
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that will be on the piano itself.
That's really great. Thank you so very much.
yes.
Hold on one second. I have to get back in my groove of going from being Zoom and live in person. I just want to. Tammy's still here. Not that Tammy doesn't want to still be here on the Zoom, but she might be looking for me to take her out. So just if you give me a second,
Right? Absolutely.
I'm going to just change her back to an attendee. Thank you, Tammy. Okay.
Great, so now we have reports from the superintendent, whenever Mr. Neef is ready.
Yep, so personnel updates, we've had a little bit of movement since we last met. We actually had a few resignations in food services and bus drivers, but we're pleased to announce that we were able to hire for those positions. So we're actually able to maintain our staffing level. We're always concerned when we lose the food service positions. We're concerned when we lose any position, but sometimes food service and bus drivers are particularly hard to fill. So you'll see that in the new hires and the resignations. So just going over the new hires, Catherine Krumpf is the new music teacher at the elementary school. Madeline French is a one-year teaching position at the elementary school. Robert Califf as assistant mechanic. Linda McGloin as a CDL bus driver. Skylar Rodericks as a CDL bus driver. Jessica Wild as a food service worker. Wendy Stasiowski as a food service worker, and Maureen Connolly as a food service worker. Those are all of our new hires. We did have one transfer. We transferred Morgan Brown from a one-year teaching position at the elementary school to a full-time teaching position at the elementary school. And resignations, Pam Zito as an ESP at the elementary school, Erica Goodman as an ESP at the middle high school, Nicole Crow in food service, and Taylor Avery as the bus driver / assistant mechanic. And then we just wanted to take a moment to recognize the retirement of Jesse Resendez, which is going to take place this week. I think we've spoken about this already. Jesse actually was hired the same year that I was in 1993. So we've been in the district together that entire time. It's always done outstanding work as a custodian at the middle high school, and Jesse is going to be missed. So his retirement formally takes place tomorrow. Tomorrow is his last. No, yeah, I'm off the dates a little bit. I was going to say it was 29th. Today's only 26th. Friday. Jason's like, no, my last day is tomorrow.
That's not great, I get that.
Yeah,
Last
right?
day is Friday.
Scott said.
Scott said school committee
Early retirement.
on the 29th. No, on July 30th, this Friday, is his last day. Want me to go right into COVID and fall return updates?
Yes, please.
As of today, the number of cases of COVID remain low in the Carver community and in southeastern Mass. Carver has been a great community since mid-May, meaning less than 10 total cases. As of the state weekly data update last Thursday, July 22nd, the Carver numbers as follows. The current case count for the last 14 days was less than 5. The total positive tests in the last 14 days was 3. And the positivity rate within the Carver community over the last 14 days was 1.13%. We had talked about the last meeting, we weren't going to do as intensive a COVID update as we've been doing, but we'd still do a check-in. And obviously, in the last couple of weeks, there's been more of a concern and more discussion about the Delta variant and different concerns around COVID. But the numbers within the Carver community and even this region of southeastern Mass have remained low. As of right now, DESE's last statement on the fall return. And I have already received several questions over the last couple of weeks about this, so I just want to take a moment to be really clear about what DESE's position is and what the school district's current position is. At this time, all health and safety guidance, including wearing masks and physical distancing, are lifted for the fall. Then DESE says, we will collaborate with the Department of Public Health to issue any additional health and safety recommendations should they become necessary. So DESE's position has not changed. They're still saying that masks would be optional, as they've been in our summer programs. So that's the process we've been going at, and that's what we've been following. And then really all the other health and safety protocols are lifted. Social distancing, close contact protocols. So we'd have the opportunity to return the cafeterias to normal, the classroom spacing to normal, the use of gathering areas. And obviously there's some individual discretion there. So I've been talking to the building principals about, what do you want to do with the cafeteria? Do you want to maintain the desks? Do you want to go back to the tables? We can come back and give some direct feedback to that in the school committee. But as of right now, I just want to be really clear that DESE's position and our position has been all along to follow the guidance put out by the Department of Education. And their current guidance is that all health and safety protocols are lifted for the fall. Now, that being said, I'm going to go back to that last part of their statement, DESE's statement, which is we will collaborate with the Department of Public Health to issue any additional health and safety recommendations should they become necessary. So DESE left themselves an opening to see what was happening on the ground, see what was happening in July and August, and make a decision if they needed to make different recommendations. And I think it's been pretty public over the last couple of weeks that the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics have come out with different recommendations. So I just wanted to review those with the committee, talk about them a little bit, but be very clear that DESE has not changed their position that all health and safety protocols are lifted. So on Friday, July 9th, the CDC came out with recommendations for a fall return for schools across the country. The CDC recommendations are as follows. Number 1, vaccinated teachers and students do not need to wear masks. Unvaccinated people should continue to wear masks while indoors. All students should wear masks on the bus, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated. And if outdoors, no one needs to wear a mask, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated. Schools should use the 3-foot social distancing protocol when possible. Students and staff who are not fully vaccinated should follow close contact protocols. Vaccinated people do not need to follow close contact protocols. Obviously, the CDC recommendations are a little bit different than DESE's. And again, I know I'm being repetitive, but I don't want to send any kind of mixed messaging. DESE is being very clear that their position right now is all health and safety requirements are lifted. On Monday, July 19th, last week, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended anyone older than the age of 2 wear a mask in fall, wear a mask in schools this fall. So obviously that's a much more aggressive masking requirement that they're recommending. They're saying really everyone, adults, students, they're really recommending full masking in the fall. Again, DESE has not made any changes to their guidance based upon the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics or the CDC. And so right now we're saying the school district's position is that all health and safety protocols will be lifted in the fall and masks will be optional, and as will social distancing protocols. We will not have to follow close contact protocols. But we'll keep our ear to the ground and see if DESE comes out with any different recommendations. Clearly, any other recommendations that came out would be brought to the committee for their review to make decisions on what's going to happen this fall. So any questions on our update of where we stand right now, or questions or comments?
No, I just want to make sure this is back on the agenda for August, so
Yeah.
we can have all the reviews, all the data we can have to make a decision on it.
Jason?
I think, and this will, I don't know if you'll be able to readily answer this, but this could be for August as well. Like, countrywide, nationwide, thank you. Like, there's still, like, if you take a plane, a train, or a bus, you still have to wear a mask. So does that supersede DESE? You know what I mean? Like, if you fly, you have to wear a mask. If you're on a city bus, you have to wear a mask. So there's that line of there's still a state mandate or national mandate about travel, but then can DESE say they don't have to wear masks on the bus? They're contradictory,
Right.
so I think we need a clarifying thing on that.
So right now, in the summer programs, we're not requiring students to wear masks on the bus, because there are several students who are being transported. But clearly, we could see clarification for that and bring it back. So I just want to let you know what we're actually doing.
Right, right.
And then clearly we could bring that back for clarification in August.
All right.
Because, obviously, I do believe in Massachusetts it is a requirement on a public bus that you wear a mask.
Right.
I can see why that's conflicting.
Yeah, and I want to avoid any contradictions and make this as, easy as possible. My second question might be a little touchier, but don't care. So is there going to be a process to identify what students and staff are vaccinated? Are there like HIPAA issues involved? Because when I'm thinking close contacts for the fall, let's say September 2nd, there's a positive case in grade 9. How will we know who's close contact or not?
So interestingly enough, right now, DESE, my understanding of their position is we will not be following close contact protocols.
At all?
At all.
Oh, I thought it was just if you were vaccinated.
So, that's it. And I think that this needs a more definition, because in my mind, of all the guidance, this has been the least clear to me. So as I've read through the new fall guidance that was put out in June, and some of the statements they made, so they made recommendations for summer and their intention of what it was for the fall. Reading that, I think there is some lack of clarity on are all the close contact protocols going to be followed. We're still going to be saying, okay, there was a positive case in the classroom, and we're going to be identifying close contacts. If we are, then my answer to your question would be, as the nurse calls and says, or if it's on a weekend, an administrator calls and says, you were identified as a close contact because you were within 3 feet for more than 15 minutes in a classroom setting. And then you could say, if you are vaccinated, you do not need to follow close contact protocols. And if the person says, yeah, we are vaccinated, so it becomes a question of then do we require them to prove it, or are we taking their word that they're vaccinated?
Exactly. That's a tricky line.
Right.
Do you know, is there HIPAA rules against like asking people to show vaccination cards?
No, I don't know about COVID-19. Ultimately, other vaccinations, students are required to turn in their vaccination information.
For ones that are required for the school.
For ones that are required to attend school. So in terms of like the flu vaccine or the flu shot, we've never had a requirement asking people to, notify us that they've received the flu shot. Well, actually, DESE did put that requirement in this year, and then the state put that in and then withdrew it. We never actually followed through and did it.
They got a lot of pushback.
A lot of pushback, and I think they'll get a lot of pushback here. And I just think that on some level, my initial response, but I understand it's a legitimate question, my initial response is it's going to be on the honor system. I don't see us being in the position of unless there's some mandate to do so. I don't see but obviously I defer to the committee in your opinion on this. But I don't see us saying to people, you have to show us or prove to us you're vaccinated.
That's something we put on a future agenda. Just, they're going to, like staff and older parents, parents of students, of older students, are going to ask that question. So it's just, again, let's be as prepared as possible, so.
All right, so for the August meeting, I'll put on, under the concept of kind of COVID updates and fall guidance, we'll specifically talk about transportation and vaccination.
That would be great. Anyone else have any questions? Jen, you look like you're...
No.
Nope, okay.
I guess the important piece is to figure out what the close contact protocol is going to be so that people have knowledge or awareness and can get tested. But I don't know how the vaccination piece fits into that, because if you're vaccinated, you could go get tested again, I guess, or I'm not clear on why would we keep a record of who's vaccinated
how the close, and really we've been doing it, how the close contact protocols ended the year, because we had begun to vaccinate people, was that if you were vaccinated, you did not have to follow the close contact protocols.
Okay. But
So
maybe
that-
you would be
And really,
notified.
that's how we ended the school year. But at that time, the majority of people who were actually vaccinated were our staff.
Right.
So, if a staff member said they were vaccinated, we didn't ask them to prove that they were vaccinated. We said, okay, you're vaccinated, you don't need to follow the close contact protocols. And at the middle high school, students were just beginning to get vaccinated. They had opened it up for 12 to 17, and we had students who were fully vaccinated. But quite honestly, if you remember, the last 6 weeks of school, we did really well, and we didn't have positive cases. So really, from May 1st on, I don't want to give an exact date, but after May 1st, we had very little positive cases. So when students were actually being vaccinated, we weren't facing that situation of, okay, let's identify the close contacts, but if you're and then someone say, well, I'm vaccinated, I don't have to follow that.
Yeah.
Because we just didn't face that situation based on, we were in a good place. We weren't, people weren't testing positive in school from May on.
Oh.
But that actually was, as we ended the year, that was the close contact protocol, was vaccinated. And that's what we're using in the summer. So in the summer programs, we did have one, we had one issue coming up, not with a positive case. We had an issue coming up with just students feeling sick and going to get tested, and what protocols do we follow. And we said, we're following, for the summer, we're following the close contact protocols that we were following in the spring. But this goes back to that whole statement, Desi's original statement of, at this time, all health and safety guidance, including wearing masks and physical distancing, will be lifted. And my understanding is their statement on all health and safety guidance includes close contacts. So they're saying we're not going to have to follow close contact protocols and notify people of positive COVID cases in the fall. But I'll look to seek some clarification on that, because I think for some people that may cause a little bit of a level of anxiety too, that there wouldn't be a notification process. Just like there wouldn't be a notification process if a student in the class had flu. Maybe in the past for other things, when we had a bad flu year, we might say, like a general statement of, there's been a lot of flu cases in the school, we might want to take some precautions. Right. And so, it was more of a global statement than an individual statement of, that this person in this classroom has the flu.
Right. Hopefully there'll be some more clarification between now and our next meeting in August.
Yep.
And I'm sure from that meeting to the beginning of school, I'm sure there'll
See
probably
if
be
anything
additional
changes.
guidance that will come out. Yeah, so we did talk about adding a second meeting in August if necessary.
Yep,
right?
we could certainly do that.
So, I don't know how.
But I think we, honestly, in my opinion, I think we should wait to see what the guidance says.
When is
Yeah.
our August meeting?
The 16th, I think.
Yep.
That's
We
perfect.
could do
Right
one-
in the middle where you really can't do a second meeting.
You could do on the 30th, which is the week before school starts.
Right.
We could do one 2 weeks later on the 30th, the week before school started.
We could also do it on another day of the week if we needed to.
Yes.
Well, let's
48
see-
hours notice.
In my opinion, let's see where we are on the 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, see what information we have. And obviously, there's a little bit of a concern that, as we said at the beginning of the Delta variant, and a little bit higher spread. So we'll see how widespread that becomes, see if that calms down or gets worse. And, some of the projections are that it's going to get worse, but we'll see how that plays out. Anything else on COVID updates?
Anyone else?
Can't wait for this to never be on the agenda again.
Right?
I'll just speak for everyone on that. I'm
Hopefully
sorry.
soon.
Right? I mean,
Not as much as I like to hear you talk about it, Scott. I mean,
Yeah.
man. Burn.
exactly. Thank you. Thank you for the questions.
All right, if we're ready to move on, we'd love to invite Mrs. Myesis, Ms. Dawson up. We're going to come up and give us an overview of the SEL curriculum at Carver Elementary School. That was used this past year and is going to be used this year coming up. So we're glad you guys are both here this evening. Let me pull up the presentation.
Yes, welcome. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank you.
coming in over the summer to make this presentation for us. We all greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good evening,
A
everyone.
little bit bigger. What do you guys have in front of you, too?
All right, are we ready?
So give me that, there we go. Good. Yep.
So, Mr. Neef and I were talking a couple of weeks ago just a little bit more about SEL and some questions that some of our community members might be having. But before we get like right into the presentation that I've made, I wanted to give everyone a little bit of background information as to sort of how this whole thing with SEL on our specialist rotation and how it came to be. So last year, as we were preparing for return to school, actually this time last year during the summer, we knew that our children were going to be needing some additional SEL support just from the whole time that they spent at home during COVID. And so we decided to have our school adjustment counselors provide SEL support, social emotional learning support, on a rotation, so once every 6 days. And so as you know, at the elementary school, we have 2 counselors, Mrs. Hardiman, who services the children in K through 2, and Mrs. Bartlett, who services children in 3 through 5. One of the things to remember, though, is those counselors have a caseload. So they're support staff, but they also are, they respond to crises, they respond to, situations that happen in the classroom. So they're here, there, and everywhere. And then they also have a caseload, as I mentioned. In some instances, they are required to support students that are on an IEP. So in order for us to really be able to support all of the students with SEL through a universal model, we thought of the SEL during Allied Arts. So the counselors were able to support all of the students. In addition, last year, what we also had was 2 guidance, school adjustment counselor interns. Very fortunate, that rarely happens, very fortunate to have 2 interns working on their certification and licensure from Cambridge College. So they were actually able to help us as well with some of this. But then going into this year, when the students returned to school full in person, we definitely noticed an increase in social emotional support needs. And some of our parents were hoping that we could provide one-on-one counseling or small group counseling, which can be really challenging to do with a school as large as we have with 2 counselors. What we knew we really needed to do was provide students with strategies so that they could manage the typical developmental kinds of things that happen in the pre-K through 5 school environment, knowing full well that during COVID, they missed on a lot of those developmental opportunities where you play with kids in the playground every day, or you connect with them in school or in the hallway. So they missed a ton of that, which is really important. We know the age of 0 to 6 is super foundational for kids, and that's where they build a lot of these skills. So in talking with Mr. Neef and our admin team, we felt that it was really important to be able to provide SEL to the students again this year. So we were able to allocate some resources through ESSER funds and have a full-time 1-year position. So that's where we're at now, and so we want to tell you a little bit about what SEL is going to look like. I told you a little bit about what it looked like last year and what it'll look like this year as the school year starts. And just talk to you a little bit more about the goals. So we really want to ensure that we have a school-wide implementation of SEL. And what that is really building on a school culture that's positive, proactive, where students are feeling supported, that they're able to advocate for themselves, and they're able to connect with adults who can then support them emotionally as well. So those are sort of the big picture goals. And then when you think about what does SEL really look like in a school when it's done well. And so that first bullet there says explicit instruction. So in order for us to do that means we have dedicated time and learning, time for learning and practicing. So kids need an opportunity to learn, but they also need a practice to role play. They need a practice in order to be able to do it. And so that's that explicit instruction block of time. SEL, when done well, it's also integrated with academic instruction. So our teachers provide SEL support to the students all day long, but they're not they're not providing just an SEL curriculum. They're embedding it into how they communicate with the kids, how they support them, how they stop to intervene, how they guide them or make when children might make a mistake. So that's how it's integrated. Student voice and engagement is very important. Obviously, we want our children to engage in their learning. We want them to be problem solvers, and we want them to be decision making. So that's, when they're engaged, they have student voice. That students are supported in the school and the classroom climate. And really, that's just, what that is students have a sense of belonging, and they're affirmed really in who they are and how they feel. And then the next one, there's a focus on adult SEL. We all know how important it is for adults to cultivate their own SEL needs, and in order to be able to deliver this well and support our children, our adults need to feel good about themselves as well, and to cultivate their own SEL. The next one is supportive discipline. So what this really is, and we've been working on this at the elementary for a while, you've been hearing us talk about restorative justice. So supportive discipline is really when children might make a mistake or there's a problem. We work with them through restorative justice, through talking to them. It's not a punishment style of approach. It's a supportive, engaging discussion on how to fix it when they make a mistake. And then supports are integrated. So there's a continuum of supports. And really what that is staff throughout the school, whether you're a classroom teacher, whether you're an associate principal or a support staff or an ESP, all of these pieces are in sync with each other. In other words, I know what you're doing, you know what I'm doing, and we're working together to support the kids. That there's authentic family partnerships. And again, here is our families. We need their support and their understanding to be able to deliver this and to help to shape our approach. And then the community partnerships, and here is an example, the police department, our SRO, our fire department, our mental health agencies, we're all working together to support the kids. And then that we have a continuous improvement, and this is really just the data. So how are our kids doing? What do they need? Are they making progress? That sort of thing. All right, so that's really all of those pieces. When they're done well, kids are doing well. And so that's the goal for us, to do all those things well. So then the next slide, how do students at CES receive SEL instruction? So they receive it through morning meeting with their regular teacher, and we've had a program called Responsive Classroom where our teachers have received training, so they all have morning meeting. There's opportunities for children really to build community of learners. That's what happens there. And that's typically 15 to 20 minute block of time.
I don't know if you could give a suggestion of what might happen in morning meeting.
Sure.
Tiny's like to jump into.
She wants to say.
Okay,
sure.
go ahead.
There are 4 really important components that happen in a morning meeting. So it's a greeting, a sharing, an activity, and a special message. And you can go ahead and give an example. I know she's chomping to tell
okay.
them, so you have plenty of examples.
So it's an opportunity for the classroom teacher to build community with the students. So you're learning information about them and them as individuals, them as learners. So for example, one of the greetings that I see the most, and Mr. Neef has been to Mrs. Steed's classroom for that one, is the shoe. Everyone takes off their one shoe and puts it in the pot, and then you have to into the middle, and you have to guess who the shoe is, and then you bring it over to another student and you say, "Good morning, Mr. Neef. How are you today?" And then he's got to greet me back, and it's just an opportunity for kids to greet each other one-on-one.
I'm doing well, Mrs. Dawson. How are you?
I've had a great day. And then another fun, so that's the greeting, and there's like hundreds, there's hundreds of greetings, and so there's plenty. And one of the activities that is super fun is the number game. So you have to kind of figure out who, how you're going to stay alive, or just
Survive.
Survive, thank you. How you're going to survive with 25 kids and you're counting, and every 7th kid or 7th person in the classroom has to sit down. So that's a fun game. It's just an opportunity for the kids and the teachers to, bond together for a 20-minute period. And some of the messages could be like good morning class, and there could be errors in the messages, and then the kids would have to go up and find them and circle them or underline them. Those are just a few examples.
Yeah, I think people would talk about morning meeting, but I don't know if we take an explicit time to say this is what happens in morning meeting, which happens in every classroom at the elementary school every day.
Yes, and as I mentioned earlier, it's anywhere from 15 minutes to 25 or 30 minutes. It's at the beginning of the school year. The first 30 to 45 days, it might be a little bit longer, just because kids and the teacher are really getting to know each other. And names are important. Looking at each other in your eyes. And we had to,
social skills through that.
Absolutely,
Right.
Absolutely. And then
I have a question. Did Scott ever get his shoe back?
They knew my shoe.
we knew it was his right away.
He was very good at the numbers, the counting 70.
Yeah, I like that.
He actually won several times.
You got to play to win,
And he beat the children.
Always.
Very RTI, play to win. There you
It's
go.
very competitive. It's very competitive sometimes, yeah. Yep. But again, the idea really here is teacher-student relationship and student-to-student relationship. And so it's also embedded throughout the school day with all of the staff. So how we greet the kids, and we've talked about this lots of times where, you all know how important it is for us to greet the kids, whether they're getting off of a bus or they're getting off of a vehicle in the front or the back of the school, because we just really want kids to feel like, yes, they're getting, a good start to their school day. Once every 7 days through the specialist rotation is how we plan to teach SEL this year to the students. And it's going to be by Mrs. McGann, who is formerly Miss Curley. So she was our 5th grade teacher, and had been working on her licensure as a school adjustment counselor, and so it was a great opportunity, and so it's actually a great fit, really. So she's going to be able to support all of the students K through 5. And so students will see her if you if you are in, let's just say, Miss Crump's kindergarten class, you will see Miss McGann for social emotional class 35-40 minutes about once every 7 days. All right, so that just gives you a little bit of idea of how that works on the rotation with gym, phys ed, tech class, art, music, and we have had library on the rotation before, but we're going to have a different way that kids can make sure that they spend time in the library and borrow books. All right, so any questions so far about any part of what I've talked about? Anyone? All right, so let's go to the next one. So what are we going to use to teach the kids? So we're going to use a specific SEL curriculum. And it's called Second Step, that we're going to focus, Ms. McCann will focus on Second Step. We also, as we mentioned earlier, we use responsive classroom. The teachers use that in the morning. We have another set of tools called Toolbox, and really these are strategies that Ms. McCann can teach the children how to use when they are experiencing, whether it's frustration or anxiety or being upset about a situation on the playground or whatever it is. There will be a series of things that she can teach them and help to reinforce what they've already learned in the classroom. And we also use the MARC anti-bullying curriculum. We've used that curriculum for several years at Carver Elementary School, but it's not something that we can say, oh, we use this every day, because, again, teachers are really focusing on the academic content areas. And so, yes, sometimes they'll have to pull a lesson when there's a challenge that the class has been presented with on the playground or in the lunchroom, and a teacher will say, okay, we're going to focus on this for the next 20 minutes just because we want to try to resolve this situation. So teachers do stop and adjust often based on what's happening in the class. But in this case, with Ms. McCann being able to help, it really is just going to be another opportunity to support the kids. And then we also do have our district SEL resource site, but that resource site, something that Ms. Cargill, Ms. Erickson, I'm sorry, and Melissa Leary, Jill Liddy, a few other staff members from the district level have worked on, and it's really a resource for the staff. But for our children at the elementary school, we're going to primarily focus on second step. And Tanya and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that so that you know what second step is. It's a curriculum with very step-by-step lesson plans. And it covers 5 areas. It's a universal classroom-based curriculum for social emotional learning, and they've really done a nice job over the last, it's been around for many years. It's a research-based program. What it does is really focuses on nurturing children's their competencies, their SEL competencies, and foundational learning skills that we've been talking about. And we just know how important it is at this time for kids to thrive and feel connected in school so that they can access academic content. So that's really where we come from in terms of our philosophy and why we feel this is so important, and we're embarking on this for this next year.
Okay, so skills that are taught in the Second Step program are social emotional skills as well as self-regulation skills. So kids will need to understand and communicate their feelings effectively and politely. Manage their emotions, so if they're frustrated, how are they, going to bring themselves back in order to learn? Solve interpersonal problems. That's a huge one. Make friends and get along with others. Also monitor and manage their own feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, and focus attention on learning when distracted, upset, or excited. So there's specific lesson plans that will address all of those areas. So the 4 areas are develop skills for learning. So those are mainly your executive functioning skills. How can you be organized? Your use of time management. Develop empathy, which you need to honor the person that's in front of you. You need to understand that I don't know what it's like to walk in your shoes. Emotional management. Can you self-regulate when you're upset? Even when you're happy, because you could be off the charts when you're happy, right? And problem solve. Like there's a conflict. How are you going to resolve that conflict? So lessons and reinforcements for the activities. So there is a warm-up in the beginning. There is a brain builder activity. There's a short video that does present a problem, and the teacher would stop at a certain point and you would discuss. There's there's areas, they give you the printouts, the sheets with several questions on that, and then they also have a section where you can create your own question based on what you've seen so far. So you're a student is thinking about the situation that's presented in the video. They're trying to problem solve based on the questions that are provided. And then you watch the rest of the little video, and then there's a class discussion, and hopefully everyone is taking a turn and sharing their ideas. Obviously not all children have to share, because some people, they don't want to share, but depending on the situation. They're using skills that they're going to need for every day. We do have home links in the Second Step curriculum, and it's integrated throughout the day.
And the home links really is just a summary of maybe the lesson or the specific module, and it gives parents information on what the children learned that week or month, or things to look ahead to, and also gives them parents some suggestions of how they can help to reinforce some of those concepts.
So this is an example of a second grade lesson plan. So it's communicating respectfully. So there's a problem, maybe it's on the playground, maybe somebody took the ball away from you, and how are you gonna ask for that ball back? Are you gonna go up, are you gonna grab it away from them, or are you gonna communicate your thoughts and feelings effectively in order to resolve the problem right then and there? So that's just one example. I know that grade 4 had an amazing lesson this year. Mrs. Bartlett brought in an object, and she kind of put it out of sight. So some kids could see it clearly, some kids could sort of see it, some kids were really guessing at what this object was, and the whole idea was to draw the object. So it was all about perspective taking. So the kids in the back of the room had a different perspective than the kids in the front of the room. And then they talked about, well, are you sometimes on the playground and you have a different perspective than Sally or Johnny? And how is that we can, come together and have this, eventually get to the same perspective? It was a great lesson.
Awesome.
Oh, and there's a lot of partner work too in this. Okay. So this is the learning outcomes is an improved school climate. Students are engaged in their learning, and students demonstrate growth in social and emotional competencies.
So that's the goal. That's what we're hoping to get to. The students are feeling more and more successful with how they're interacting with each other, and obviously when that happens, they're just better grounded for the academic content when they get in, whether from the bus or the cafeteria, the social areas really, where they're all together. So that's all we have for you. Do you have any questions for us?
Right. I have one question. You mentioned a district-wide SEL site that is, the primary purpose of it is to be a support for staff.
Yeah.
Is that something that could be shared with us so we can just peruse it or see it?
Yeah, I'll talk to Mrs. Erickson and see. I know that she's been working on it, honestly, for about 4 years, and just continuing to build it and ensure that what's on there is well vetted. But I know at one point that she was interested in having it shared with the community, too.
Yeah, so ultimately, one of the goals is actually to have this, it wouldn't be the exact same site, but actually create a site for parents. Certainly, we could share the site with the school committee.
Okay.
So right now, the purpose isn't to share it with the community at large.
Yes, yeah, no.
We're actually looking to develop that and create a parent website, the same way.
I think that would be great if we could make some kind of spin-off so that parents had resources available too. But yeah, no, just as a...
Yep, certainly we could share that with the committee.
Yes.
Thank you. Jason?
What type of, if any, feedback have you gotten from families regarding this in the past year? The program overall?
For the most part, it's been positive. It's been very well received. People were, in general, happy to hear that children were all going to have a universal SEL support. It's not, if you think about it, it's not a lot. It's a dose that takes place once every 6 days, really. But really, it's an opportunity to reinforce lessons. And then, as I mentioned earlier in one of those earlier slides, if we're all of the staff, the support staff, everyone that's interacting with kids and connecting with kids, whether it's in the hallway, in the classroom, in a counseling lesson, in the gym, at recess, on the bus, if we're all sort of reinforcing those concepts and helping them, kids are going to just be more successful and more connected. That's really what we want them to feel, more connected. But in general, no, I haven't had a lot of questions as to why we're doing it. I've just had more comments of, oh, that's good, that's going to be helpful, that's something we can support.
Thanks.
Great. Anything else, Colleen?
I just had a question, in what form the home links come home? Is it?
It could be digital, because Second Step has now transferred everything digitally. It could be both paper copy and digital, but as you know, we're really trying to focus on electronic. So now that we have Aspen, I could see that being fairly seamless to be able to send the home links that way.
Great. be cool to
Good, that was a
see.
good question.
Yeah, it'd be
that's
cool
good.
to see an example
Yeah.
of what the lesson plan looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I had a quick question, actually two quick questions. Is there a portion of this that's focused in teaching self-respect? Or basically saying, standing up for yourself, basically?
Advocacy
Not letting
skills,
yourself
yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, good, because I think that's a big problem in society, that people think they're less than a lot of times, and they don't stand up for themselves, whether in a lot of different situations, whether it's home life or in relationships or whatever. And they might stay in those situations for years.
Yes, and this particular curriculum gives opportunities for that through role play. So it's actually quite a scripted curriculum, and so Ms. McKay will be able to use the scripted versions, but she'll be able to, put kids together, practice, not being able to speak up for yourself and role play, because that's really how children learn, and then she'll be able to give reinforcement and support kids. But there's developmental ways that are very appropriate to do starting in kindergarten. And it's really important for them to be able to stand up for themselves and say, what they want, and have what we had mentioned earlier, that student voice, because that's where then they're engaged with their learning. If they feel confident, they're going to be able to access learning.
I think with teaching that with boundaries and then empathy at the same time, they have more of a well-rounded, someone who could look at anything, almost to put themselves in those shoes. And my other question is, if you have a child that is very, very shy, how do you get them to, how do you draw them out? Like if you give us a little example of that, like what would you do? Like just someone who's like a kid that's just really shy, or like to get them to participate, or.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. It really depends on the child,
Yeah.
but my experience is children are going to, they have interests somewhere, and part of our responsibility, or my responsibility, is to help define those interests.
Okay.
And so they might be sort of timid or hesitant in music, but they might be absolutely just like beaming and engaged and ready to do something in art. And so that's why Allied Arts is so important, and we always want to have that, because maybe a student is not as comfortable or confident in the classroom with math or science, but there's got to be something. And that's how you help children to, start to come out of their shell, if they're in a shell, and support them with interest. And that's that whole piece with teachers getting to know their kids, because if you get to know them, you're going to find what they like. That's how we engage them in reading. So, sometimes we really struggle to get children to read. And we'll say, well, do they like comics? Do they like anime? Do they like, what do they like? Do they like motocross? Do they like basketball? Because there's got to be something, and that's where you can kind of grab them and then help them to come out of their shell.
You start them with the success building and one thing you find, then might lead to other.
Yeah. And then there's other things too. I mean, and we deal with this all the time. Some staff we aren't just a good match for certain children.
Right.
So sometimes it's really matching kids with adult personalities. Like, some personalities might be too soft-spoken for certain children, or some might be too loud. So I think it's just really trying to find that match so that kids are comfortable.
Right. Well, thank you.
I was just going to say that, building upon what Ruby said, is that you find out what their interest is, and maybe you have a lesson coming, like it's Monday, on Wednesday, and you're like, I know you can do this. This is your area. Maybe you're, working with them so that they're prepared to give a little, like, blurb about whatever it is that in that lesson.
Building their confidence a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Andy, I think about that question. It's really all about opportunities. We need to keep providing the environment and opportunities for kids so that they can access and grab something that gets their interest.
I agree.
That's huge, and laying that groundwork for them.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else have any questions? No? I just want to say thank you very much for coming in. This is just, it's so important in so many ways and is so beneficial to students. And I love the fact that it's relationship building and building those connections and making the kids really feel, a part of a community. So I see the value and I appreciate it. So thank you very much for coming in and sharing some more information about the details of the program with all of us.
You're welcome.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Ruby, I don't know if you want to stay or
Oh,
not.
yeah, you can stay, yeah.
As we transition.
Sure.
Going on to recommendations, there are some minor changes to the elementary school handbook that we want to bring to the committee for review. And so we're glad to have Ruby and Tanya again to present on elementary school handbook changes.
So there are not very many changes to the handbook this school year. There's just very minor changes. We've added additional language for handbook translation. Of course, the principal letter for the 21-22 school year has been updated. School committee members, district admin, there's been name changes. School calendar, dates have been updated. Coordinator information on pages 8 and 9. Melissa Leary replaces Karen Tykert with the exception of Title IX, which is going to be Mr. Neath. Arrival and dismissal on page 12. The new language is please note when designing our arrival and dismissal procedures. We just took out the COVID changes. We've added information on page 12 in regards to Aspen. Report cards, parent-teacher conferences dates have been updated, consent forms. They're going to be they may be going home electronically or in hard copy. Attendance, just a small change in attendance to make it just a little bit more SEL friendly. Acceptable use policy, we did add a line in the in this area, that's on page 45. The district may issue your student a Chromebook for use at school and home while we utilize filtering software that meets online child safety guidelines. Families assume the responsibility to manage their child's technology at home. Our website includes online resources with tips and suggestions for families on technology use at home. And then the link is in there. Parent/guardian, the words parent/guardians have been changed as when acceptable, just to families. And those are all the changes for the school year.
I'll make a motion to accept the changes to the elementary school handbook as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
That's
thank you very
unanimous.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and being here this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Enjoy the last days of summer.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so the policy for our last agenda item tonight, the policy subcommittee committee met in May to review a policy revision to the district's policy for facilities development and management. Tonight is the first reading of the policy, giving members the opportunity to ask questions and give suggestions to the possible revisions. The intention is not to take any action on this item tonight. And the major change in the policy is it would require the school committee to tour all school facilities twice a year, once prior to the start of school and once again prior to February 1st. So looking at the policy itself, I'll just read the second paragraph, which added the sentence. Therefore, it is the committee's goal to provide the facilities needed for the number of students in the school system and to provide for the kind of facilities that best support and accommodate the educational program. In pursuit of this goal, the members of the school committee shall tour all school facilities and property once prior to the start of school and once before February 1st. And I think the thought process behind this policy change was saying, we don't have a lot of school facilities, so it wouldn't be an overwhelming task to visit the two buildings. And as we get into capital improvement planning, as we look at the implementation of new technologies, as we look at the setup of the schools, that it might make sense on a biannual basis, twice a year, to have a meeting and we could maybe schedule it prior to one of our meetings, and we'd start over at the building and go on a tour and then have a regularly scheduled meeting. That is the proposal of the policy subcommittee. I don't know if Stephanie and Andy, as members of the committee, want to add anything to my presentation about the rationale and the reasoning behind the proposed change.
Andy?
I think you encompassed everything that we wanted to achieve. I think the main goal of this was, well, we did it unofficially a couple different times. Scott invited us during COVID, I think, just to tour the buildings. But I think the thought process behind this was the town has, spent a lot of money on these buildings, these facilities. We want them to last a long time. We are the governing agency for the district, of the district for the town, for these school buildings, and we're ultimately responsible for them with the building department as well. And I just thought, and Stephanie, I think, agreed with me, that we should have at least lay eyes on them a few times a year, and just physically walk through them.
And I think we chose those dates because obviously prior to the start of school, saying before school starts, the buildings where they should be. And then also, we picked February 1st, really thinking about the capital planning process.
Right.
So as we go into town meeting.
Budget time.
In budget time, you get a sense of these are the capital improvements that are being suggested for the building, kind of the rationale behind those, and better prepare us for the town meeting and the budget process.
I think we get reports from Scott and Dave, and but I think I just thought it was important, and I think, like I said, the subcommittee thought it was important just to walk through, just to see these things. So that's where we were coming from.
Yeah. I would agree with this. I mean, I was actually the one who had requested to see classrooms last year because I was having trouble visualizing what 3 and 6 feet of spacing and desks were. So I'm fairly certain it was me that asked Scott if he could set those up and bring us in. And then at one point we went in, that was before school started, and then we went in again after school had started just to see how things were going. You would invite
while
us
kids were in
back.
session, yeah.
And I found that really helpful, and I felt like staff and teachers were really, at least when I went with Stephanie, I felt like staff and teachers were really excited to see us, and they were happy that we were there and asking them how it's going and being more involved. So, it's an opportunity to allow them a chance to talk to us too in an informal way. I would support this change or addition.
Jason?
I like the intent. I don't like the requirement. Here's why. Let's say we're doing the capital outlay and we're like, oh, we need a new ceiling in the auditorium. I'm gonna walk in the auditorium and be like, okay. I don't know anything about repairs. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm going to trust that if something needs to be done, you guys are going to make that decision and to be like, no, I have to go just to go. And again, it's not a huge obligation, right? It's just that requirement. Like, no, you have to be here on January 23rd to look at that girls' locker room that's not draining water. It's like, okay, fix it. I don't want to see, I don't need to sit in ankle-high water. I know it's that, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I guess just the whole require piece is, or the shall, I guess in the official language here, is the piece that I'm hung up on. So that's it.
Want to answer that?
You can answer it.
The reasoning, I brought that part forward and we discussed it and approved it was, this also would be in an actual policy, would bind future school committees to actually do this, so it wouldn't kind of go by the wayside for some new, like Scott's not going to be here, forever. We're all not going to be here forever. Someone might just forget about it. Oh, that was the tradition, but this is kind of just putting the onus on the school committee for responsibility to the town. And even though we're not engineers, but just walking through, and like I said, Dave and all the different people that are actually responsible for these things, they're the ones that with their hands in the dirt on it, but we have to ultimately approve a lot of things, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if I could ask, so this isn't saying that we're required to visually see any change that needs to be made to the building. This is just saying that we simply just go tour the schools twice a year.
Property.
And it would be certainly an opportunity if they, like, I know when I toured the school, Scott brought us through the area of the high school where they're going to be developing the kitchens. And, you know, he kind of showed us the stats of them and explained like some of the changes that were already planned, and then talked about what the hopes and dreams were for the future. You know, and so I think it's an opportunity to kind of do that hands-on instead of looking at a, you know, picture on a slide. I don't think it's, I hope the premise of this isn't like, you know,
Any work that
needs to be done needs us to go see it, because I would not support that.
No,
No,
it's-
I don't know, would it be more tenable if it was once versus twice? In terms of the requirement piece?
I'm just,
And it also gives an opportunity to see what developments we have put into place. I know there was new equipment and lighting, so you can see the finished product too.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying, I mean, we'd still go. I mean, it's not saying like, if it wasn't in here, I wouldn't still go. Of course I would go. It's just, it's a fundamental thing for me, being like, you shall go twice a year to tour these schools, or, you know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, or I'm going to
Yeah.
wag my finger at you and you will be disciplined.
Yeah.
Kinda. So it's just like, you know what I mean? So it's just,
You know, can I say, oh, sorry, Jason.
no, I'm good.
One of the reasons I brought this up too is because someone will come up to me, so a member of the public, maybe you guys have had it happen, and they say, did you see what's going on at this building? Did you see, have you seen the boys' locker room? I'm like, when's the last time I was in the boys' locker room? You know, I was like,
Last year.
You know, he's like, no, I haven't seen it, you know, and so that's where it kind of comes from too. Because it is a terrible feeling that when, as a school committee member, you don't know, it says that something, you hadn't even heard of something going on, you know, at first, you know, so this is just another way for us to be informed and just say, yeah, well, I went through it, we go through it twice a year. You know, if something new happened, no, I haven't seen that yet, but we'll get on it, but, you know.
Yeah, and it's not that we would necessarily have to tour it together either. We could probably potentially schedule alternate times, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
It'd probably be more convenient if we all could go at the same time, but.
Right.
yeah, but we could certainly, I don't think the policy states that everyone has to go.
Yeah.
to that.
I think, didn't you mention an idea about doing a tour, then having a meeting?
Yeah, I was saying that you'd actually try to maybe do the tour prior to a meeting, on a scheduled meeting date.
Did that last year at the high school.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other than that would be touring the school after school.
Yeah, that would be after school, not
bless
during the
you.
school day.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and one of the things that I thought it was positive for was if we have someone that decided to run for the school committee that didn't have a student in the district, it would give them an opportunity, you know, a reason for an opportunity to visit, to see, you know, some of the facilities that we're actually
We've often had
talking
school
about.
committee members who only have a student in one of the schools.
Yeah, so.
And so their opportunities to go to the other school is just limited.
Yep,
It's
that's a
less.
good point.
So for me, I'm a very visual person though, so it's helpful for me to correlate things when I've physically seen them and then have a discussion on paper or an issue that might be brought before. So that was my thought
Yeah, so-
behind doing that.
Yeah, I think our goal was to, see if there are any suggestions for a revision before we bring it back for the second.
Yep.
So I want to keep staying, in support of your conversation. I know, is there any revision you'd propose to the language?
I mean, I would propose shall have the opportunity to, instead of shall. Because I think everyone who's mentioned this said would have the opportunity to, and kind of in their talking through. It's just, I don't know. I'm not dying on this hill. It's fine. It's just one of those things that, I mean, when I read it the first time through, I'm like, that sounds very.
Yeah, it's sort of like adding to our
like-
charge of what our responsibilities are. Yeah.
Right.
Which is fine. Like, again, we would do it anyways. It's just I would hate to be like, you have to do this.
Yeah. Oh.
You have, and then someone, this is not going to happen. But what if someone's like, well, no, this is the policy that we have to do this, and I don't want to do this, so I'm not running for school committee. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just that's a very extreme example.
Or
but
if somebody didn't make it a second time due to unforeseen circumstances, then it's good.
I'm gonna blame the snow in January. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. So it's fine.
Are people amenable to that suggestion? Look, like I said, we're not looking to take a vote tonight. It would just
Right.
come back for a second reading. But
Okay.
the second reading could come back as shall have the opportunity to.
Yeah, either that or the other amendment I might add is in pursuit of this goal, some members of the school committee shall tour. So therefore, it's not necessarily a requirement for everybody to do it twice a year. Just, at least twice a year, somebody goes.
I was thinking about the hard dates on this. The good thing about those was that, like Scott, whoever was here that was going to be leading the tour, wouldn't be getting requests from several different people to go several different times. You know what I'm saying? So basically, it's going to be up to this date, and, you know, that's when you have to do it by this date. You know, so, you know, if you kind of leave it up in the air without a hard date, he might be kind of run ragged by trying to do tours, you know, so.
I mean, one thing that we could consider is perhaps holding a meeting at said facility. I mean, that's just an option, you know, if we would
Yeah, I think
hold a
it'd make it
meeting.
easier to do the meeting at the facility.
Yep.
It was a
Then we
big
would-
town.
But,
Nothing, sorry. Just being fresh,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, it is, town
save-
hall.
to save the
Middlesex
commute.
Town hall and Middlesex are all within a mile of each other.
Right.
They're
Yep.
a mile and a quarter.
Can anyone make the extra
of
3
town.
minutes?
I mean, we can leave it
Right,
as is, it's
exactly.
fine, it was just.
We can cut through the bugs.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't say that, you don't put that on the record, Colleen, that's
I don't know that shortcut.
all good, I mean,
I don't know, I felt like people may have been amenable to the shall have the opportunity to.
I mean, it does change the intent, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It changes it from required to can. So, I mean, if you want to keep it at, listen, let's be realistic, what's going to happen? We keep it as required, I vote no, you guys vote yes, it's 4-1, it goes through. So it's just like, we can just leave it, it's all good. Like, it's just something I wanted to put out there just to,
Totally
put out
tell
there,
it's
you know?
July.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate your candidness, Jason.
If there was a way to do that and still keep it as an institutional type of thing, that would go from year to year to year, you know, how when you do with the wording like that, how do you make it like it's no longer than a required thing?
That's why I was suggesting, it, you know, keeping it a shell tour, but saying, you know, if, you know, some members or, you know, a faction of the members, so maybe it becomes a.
The chair.
just leave it as is, legit, just leave it as is, it's fine. I just wanted to put that out there, we can leave it as is, you guys put a lot of work into it. I'm just gonna sit here and play devil's advocate because it's fun for me.
Okay,
You don't have to put that in, Gina, it's fine.
any other?
He's on a roll, he's on a roll over here.
Any other
So
questions
tired
on
of
the
this
first reading?
Such a
of policy?
July meeting,
Yeah, really.
seriously.
All right, well, thank you for considering.
Yes, thank you for all of the feedback. It's
Yes.
greatly appreciated.
And we'll bring it back, we'll bring it back in August for a second reading. and a
Okay.
vote.
Okay, we'll see how that goes in August.
Yeah, it's gonna be a surprise.
While we're here, while we're on the topic, can I bring this up? Does anybody want to schedule a tour of the facilities for August, since we don't have a policy?
No?
Should we see Scott or?
No, I don't know, I can't plan August right now, to be
Yeah,
honest.
okay,
It's-
we'll pick a date on the 16th. If we vote the policy, we'll pick a date.
Okay, let's do that.
Provide it to the status quo.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, and who knows what happens between now and then?
Yeah.
We may need to tour it, unfortunately, in, you know, in prep for a return to school and any
Yeah.
COVID things that may come up between now and then that may be helpful for us to see in person like we did last time. Okay, so with that brings us to reports from the school committee. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to say at this point?
No.
Jen?
Why do you look at me?
Well, no, everyone else said no. Everyone else shook their head. You didn't, so I just didn't want to pass over you. You're more than welcome to say no. It's okay.
It's
you
like
can
the
do
DARE
it.
program.
I know, well, now I'm like,
I didn't mean to call, I wasn't calling you out, honestly.
all right, I'll say something.
Peer pressure.
And here,
Oh, my
with the school committee reports for everybody.
I will say to all, I want to wish Jesse a very happy retirement and thank you
Yes.
for your long-term service. Welcome to all of our new hires. I'm excited about the new music teacher. I'm glad we found somebody, and all of our new bus drivers and new cafeteria workers. I hope that all of our staff is enjoying their summer and getting recharged and you know, just enjoying the break, and hopefully we'll have a little bit less rain so we can have some more sunny beach days. And just reiterate, thank you again to Ruby and Tanya for that presentation. I know this past year my children both really enjoyed the SEL classes, and my older daughter shared a lot of the worksheets that she got, and there was a lot of you know, coping skills, or, you know, if you're having, you know, a hard day, you know, they talked a lot about like anxiety and stuff, because that was pretty prevalent in this last year, and I feel like it was really helpful, and so I'm glad that that we're continuing that, because it can just help to support our students. So I hope everyone continues to have a happy summer.
Very nice. I would echo all of Jen's sentiments. And I hope I say the name right, just want to say another thank you to Sherry and Mike Bassignani for their amazing donation. And what the plaque is going to say when words leave off, music begins, is truly amazing. I'm looking forward and hopeful that with this upcoming school year that we'll be able to have in-person events and live concerts and things of that nature, and hopefully see the piano get put to use this year and for many years to come. So I just wanted to say thank you. And yes, soak up every last minute of summer that you can. I know there is summer work out there that some of the students have to do, but try to enjoy summer as much as you possibly can. And with that, I would entertain a motion to end our meeting, our public session.
Second?
I will,
Someone
Yeah, we
needs
have to make the motion.
Someone needs
Stated
to make the
specifically,
motion.
yes.
I will make a motion to adjourn from open session and go to executive session to consider a complaint brought against a public officer or individual and not return to open session.
Second.
Okay, we have a-
Roll call vote.
We have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote. So Jason?
No.
Andy?
Andy Cotterell, yes.
Jen?
Jennifer Pratt, yes.
Colleen?
Colleen Snusky, yes?
Stephanie Clarity, yes. So the ayes have it 4-1. So this concludes the
Want to stay here forever?
regular session of our meeting at 8:19 PM. Thank you to everyone who attended.